to have Bill here. Bill has over 30 years of experience in renewable energy, building materials, and sustainable agricultural markets. Bill formerly served as special assistant to the Commissioner of the Department of Ag and Markets in New York State. So he knows a little bit about farming, and he founded Jordan Energy and Food Enterprises, which is a solar developer. And 75% of Jordan Energy customers are farmers and food companies. So he's here to give us a little bit more of the developer's perspective about how a developer can really work with farmers to support farm businesses. So please help me welcome Bill.
We started in 2007 after I was 5.5 years as special assistant to the Commissioner of Agriculture in New York State. So in those 10 years, we've done 61 projects. 75% of those projects have been with farmers and food companies. A little bit of background, I've worked my whole life in agriculture. I paid for college, growing up in San Diego, working 80-hour work weeks in the Imperial Valley. And then I did ag work with small family farmers after college in Chile for 6 years. I used Cornell to bridge that international experience. So I humbly studied manure management in the dairy industry as the bridge topic. So a lot of good jokes about knowing my cow manure. And then I got a job as a special assistant to the Commissioner of Agriculture. So we would take a stack of grants for doing anaerobic digestion, which converts the manure into electricity. And it was around 2004 I said, you know what, the sun is probably going to gain a lot more market share than the anaerobic digestion. It's just so complex, and we do believe in that. But then the intuition was that solar would be a way for farmers to make more money and stabilize the economics on their farm. A couple of our projects, the man in the foreground is our current Commissioner of Agriculture, Richard Ball. We did that 95 kW ground mount in 2010 on his farm. We got a 316 kW dairy roof in the left, a megawatt AC at a greenhouse operation in Connecticut, and then the bottom right is 2 megawatts on a capped enclosed landfill in Greenfield, Massachusetts. So I want to start on this topic by quoting Richard Ball, who is a good friend, and I think he's a great commissioner. In 2015, Governor Cuomo had that picture on the New York State Energy Plan. That was 2015. In Q1 of 2016, a solar developer from the West Coast, Cypress Creek, threw out 25,000 offer letters to New York State farmers mostly. And they asked for a meeting with Richard, and this is a quote from that meeting. Richard said, I don't know if you can see it, but I'll read it. I started the meeting by speaking to them as a farmer. I received 2 offer letters from you, and they were for my 2 best parcels for growing food. In fact, they were the first 2 parcels put into the New York State Ag District Law to promote agricultural viability. As a farmer, I was insulted by these offers. As the Commissioner of Agriculture, my job is to keep prime farmland in food production. So we went from him being the poster boy for New York's energy program with that picture, and I'm proud that we put those solar panels on his farm, the Carrot Barn, to dealing with 25,000 offer letters from just one solar company. What was that in 2016? It was a preemptive strike to corner the market on land for the growth in solar that these projects and this newly passed law was envisioning, which I happen to be supportive of. We're a solar development company. There's another way to do this that I think is what we've been talking about today, and it's really partnering with farmers. So I threw some of these brochures out, and they are from Dairy Farmers of America, one of our primary partnerships. And I'd like to just go through summarizing the New York State goals, which you've already seen, how ag canopies and pollinator friendly can both happen in some mix. Talk about that relationship with the largest milk marketing co-op in the country. The announcement that was made reference to with Dean Foods. Dean Foods is Dairy Farmers of America's largest customer. DFA markets about 1/3 of the milk in the whole country. So Dean Foods has 60 milk processing plants that were mostly fed by DFA dairy farmers around the country. I think we've done a good job to help farmers combine energy generation with food production in ways that work for them. And so who's George Hunt? And the DFA developed this brochure that I put around the tables. George Hunt is a dairy farmer. He milks 250 cows. Actually, he's pictured here in that brochure with his wife, Christine. And the quote is, "Since land is the limiting factor where we're at, we had to find other ways to support our family. Solar energy has helped us to do this." So they're in Orange, Massachusetts, and they're on their 5th solar project. They still milk the cows, but on the first project was 55 kW on their barn. They got a great lease rate for marginal farmland on 11 acres, the large circle. That power is being sold to the city of Lowell, Massachusetts, right outside of Boston. We did a 145 kW on the red roof in the right corner. They actually sell that power to a restaurant that is housed in a building that they own. They net $20,000 a year in SRECs after expenses on that particular project. And then we have a 16 kilowatt at their camp, and then another 7-acre project that we're partnered with them on. So they are getting more than just the lease rate. And bottom line, George and Christine's 3 children all went through Cornell. 2 daughters are employees of Farm Credit East. And Jimmy came back to the family farm when he graduated from Cornell. He worked at a 1,000-cow dairy in New York. But the diversification of revenue that is represented by energy on this farm has that next generation excited about going back to the farm. And so we're excited about working with George and Christine and Jimmy and their family. I will skip over this because I think, David, you dealt with this well, what the law implies. We have a lot of solar and wind before us to put into New York State. This slide, I think, I alluded to in the question to our friends from Massachusetts in the morning. I asked George if you could do solar and agriculture activities together, what would you do? And he said, we were talking about pollinator friendly, and we said, let's compare pollinator friendly. He actually suggested I could get 25 goats and I could put them under that 7 acres that I just made reference to. And we did a little bit of economic analysis. I know sheep are probably better than goats for these arrays. But at the end of the day, the bottom line point of these economics is if you had 15 or 16 beehives and you had Jimmy's planting, he's planting pumpkins close to the array, not underneath the array. How much production? There'd be a 25% increase in pumpkin production, and then you would sell the honey. And the bottom line here is that it worked out to be 66% more profitable to do the pollinator-friendly solar than to have the arrays raised 8 feet. And so I think the same pollinator-friendly plants, the cloves, whatnot that you'd put in for sheep work for pollinators. So we can do a combination of both, really. And in the case of that 7 acres, we actually had it mandated in the local permitting. That's how enthusiastic we were about that. And so they said pollinators instead of grasses will be used for ground coverage on at least 25% of the array area. Non-invasive plant species may also be used as ground cover. So I think we need to make that as common as possible, and I think that'll be a good thing for the farmers that make money off of that planting. And it's not one solution. I think there'll be a varieties of solutions. A little bit about DFA. I said they market about 1/3 of the milk in the country. The way they look at it in the Northeast is that they have 25% of the milk that they buy and market is from 2,174 farms that are average 40 cows. 305 farms have an average of 282 cows, and 84 farms have an average of 1,000 cows, with 38 larger farms. 2,255 is the average size. So this is a pretty neat map. The red dots are the largest farms. The black dots are the smallest farms of those four colors. But if you have 2,646 Dairy Farmer of America members in the Northeast, if we asked, would you be willing to lease 25 acres to do solar? About 2,500 would say, yeah, would be interested. Because there really is a distressed dairy industry with the milk prices over the last 5 years. So there's a lot of opportunities. This is a picture from one of the national solar firms. They went to a DFA member and they said, you have a 120-acre farm. Okay, we want to lease 120 acres. And that farm family has three daughters. One is married and working on another farm. The other two would like to diversify the farm and continue farming. The first 50 acres of that 120-acre farm were deeded to the family by the British government before our revolution. And they said, there's no way we're going to give the 50 acres up. So our model with DFA is, instead of retiring the land from agriculture permanently and telling that new generation, just live off of that lease rent, let's lease 25 acres, have a 5 megawatt community solar project like Drew and the good people at Blue Wave are doing in a lot of locations. And guess what? That's a diversification of revenue for that farm that strengthens its finances at the same time. It's more work, but one of the things that Commissioner Ball has said to the president of NYSERDA is, instead of 100 acres at a time, let's work with the farm organizations of our state and do 4 25-acre plots that strengthen the farm economy of our state. So if you multiply 25 acres by all of the DFA members in the Northeast, that's 66,000 acres. Now, a lot of those farms won't have land that's apt for that, but I would put forward that it's a model that will allow greater benefits to farmers than solely lease income. We're talking about co-owning projects with George Hunt and Hunt Family Farm, and a lot more, hopefully, other farmers as a different model of solar development. As I said, it's more work, but ultimately more sustainable than large-scale solar pushing out food production. So I think with that, that's what I was wanting to discuss with you today. Thanks.